Matt. Mami, perdóname.
She looked her mother in the eye and dropped a truth so heavy it nearly cracked the screen. Jasmine, shaking and stiff, confessed that she was 7 months pregnant. Not by Gino, by Matt, and she was still married to Gino when it happened. This wasn't a slow buildup. It was an explosion, the kind that shatters not just the glass between them, but the years of trust Jasmine's mother thought they had. Because this wasn't a small omission. This was a full-blown, life-altering secret, kept for months, hidden beneath fake smiles and weekly check-ins. And now, all of it, her shame, her guilt, her fears, was sitting there raw and wide open, in front of the one person whose approval still meant everything to her. Hey, you're watching TLC Drama Live, and I'm Sabrina. If this moment had you holding your breath like I did, go ahead and subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next, and drop a comment. What would you do if your daughter revealed something this huge? Jasmine's voice cracked as she admitted the truth. And her mom? Not a single scream. Not a slammed laptop. Just a deep breath. The kind of breath that says everything without saying a word. Jasmine kept talking, probably trying to soften the blow. But the damage was done. Her mother's silence said it all. For Jasmine, that silence was worse than yelling. It was judgment in its quietest, most painful form. And it wasn't just about the baby. It was about who Jasmine had become. The choices she'd made, the lies she told, and the man she said she loved, replaced, discarded, forgotten, while she built a new life behind Gino's back. The real twist? Jasmine and her mom talk weekly. Video calls, messages, constant check-ins. Yet somehow Jasmine managed to hide an entire pregnancy, a new man, and an open marriage arrangement. All from the woman who raised her, and if that's what Jasmine was willing to hide from her own mother, what else has she been hiding from the rest of us? You could feel the tension radiate through the screen. Jasmine's hands fidgeted. Her mom didn't flinch. She didn't interrupt. But her face, the disappointment, the heartbreak, it didn't need translation. Jasmine might have prepared a speech, but nothing could prepare her for the weight of her mother's silence. And then came the kicker. Jasmine asked for forgiveness. Straight up. Tears in her eyes. Her mom still hadn't said a word. It wasn't cruel. It was real. Like she needed a second to process that her daughter was about to bring a child into the world, tied to a man she barely knew, while still legally connected to the one she once promised forever. Now the question isn't just how Jasmine's mom will react, it's whether Jasmine herself even understands the storm she just walked into. It's one thing to lie. It's another to lie with a smile every single week to the woman who raised you. Jasmine didn't just keep a secret. She constructed a second life, a different reality. And somehow, she managed to pull it off under her mother's nose, while pretending everything was perfectly normal. Imagine answering video calls with your baby bump out of frame, talking about love, life, marriage, all while knowing your entire story is fake. That takes effort. That takes cold nerves. Or maybe it takes something worse, a heart so desperate to escape, it'll burn every bridge behind it. Because this wasn't about a slip-up or a bad decision. Jasmine's story didn't fall apart overnight. It was built on months of lies. And when you look back, you start to realize how much energy she must have spent keeping her world from collapsing. She wasn't just hiding a pregnancy. She was hiding the truth about Gino, about Matt, about herself. And still, she showed up on those weekly calls, smiling, nodding, laughing, while everything inside her was unraveling. What do you do when the person you raised becomes someone you don't recognize? Her mother's heartbreak isn't dramatic. It's slow. Still, watching her listen, quietly, while her daughter admits to months of deception, you start to feel the weight of Jasmine's choices settle into the room like smoke that won't clear. It's not just that she lied. It's how easily she kept it going. You don't get good at lying overnight. That kind of performance takes practice. And Jasmine, she had time, but secrets don't stay buried. They rot. And when they surface, they take everything with them. And here's where it all starts to snap into focus. Jasmine didn't just lie to her mom. She lied to herself. She told herself this was temporary, that the open marriage was a fix, that Matt was just a side chapter. But now there's a baby. There's paperwork. There are consequences. And no matter how hard she tries to paint it as complicated love, it's clear this was something else. Avoiding intimacy with Gino for 8 months wasn't about needing space. It was the beginning of a quiet exit, one she didn't want to admit. And instead of ending things clean, she opened the door to something messier. She asked for permission to fill a void, and she filled it with a man who didn't even know how to speak to her mother respectfully. Now, as Jasmine tells her mom the story, the timeline, the choices, the emotions, you can see it dawn on her that none of this makes her look strong. It makes her look lost, like someone who ran from a broken marriage straight into another mistake, hoping it would feel like freedom. But freedom doesn't look like this. It doesn't come with fear of deportation, tears in your mom's eyes, or a man fumbling through explanations like it's a game. So here's the curveball Jasmine didn't see coming. The man she tried to walk away from quietly might end up legally tied to her child forever. Because under Michigan law, if you're still married when a baby is born, the husband on paper is presumed to be the father. No DNA test, no feelings, just a rule. And in Jasmine's case, that rule could destroy everything. Gino didn't sign up for this, but the system might say otherwise. He could be stuck with legal paternity of a child that isn't his. And that doesn't just mean a name on a birth certificate. It means financial responsibility. It means potential custody complications. It means drama that follows you for the rest of your life, all because someone didn't file divorce papers fast enough. For Jasmine, this isn't just messy. It's terrifying. She's already carrying the weight of guilt, secrecy, and emotional fallout. Now she has to face the reality that Gino might take legal action. And if he does, she won't be able to spin it as a misunderstanding. The law doesn't care about feelings. It cares about dates, names, signatures, and Gino? He's not letting it slide. Let's rewind. When Gino found out Jasmine was pregnant and still hadn't filed for divorce, something in him snapped. He called immigration. He accused her of marriage fraud. Not quietly. Not off the record. He made it official. And that accusation could trigger a process Jasmine might not be able to stop. Marriage fraud isn't just a buzzword. If taken seriously by immigration, it can lead to hearings, investigations, even deportation. And when you mix in a pregnancy, legal fatherhood confusion, and a very public breakup, it creates a storm that's hard to control. One call from a scorned ex turned Jasmine's private secret into a legal time bomb. Here's where it gets even messier. Jasmine and Matt went to a lawyer. Not for love advice, for survival. They needed answers. Fast. Because if Gino is recognized as the legal father, then Matt, the actual biological dad, might have no say at all unless they challenge it in court. And that process isn't quick, clean, or cheap. And Jasmine, she's scared. You can see it. She says she's afraid of being deported. Not for herself, but for her baby. She talks about the future being ripped away, about not knowing what rights she has, or how much time she has left. This isn't drama for the show. This is real-life paperwork. Federal departments, lawyers, deadlines. And it all comes back to one truth. Jasmine didn't close one door before opening another. She underestimated the law. She thought emotions would settle on their own, that Gino would back off, that Matt could step in and take over quietly. But that's not how it works. Matt isn't married to her. He's not on the paperwork. And unless Jasmine gets divorced and files the right motions, she's legally tethered to Gino, like it or not. And let's be honest, Gino is hurt, embarrassed, publicly rejected. Of course, he's not letting go easily. Calling immigration might seem petty, but to him, it's revenge wrapped in legal armor. Now Jasmine has to live in the shadow of a marriage she thought she'd left behind. And the worst part? Her daughter's future could depend on how fast she untangles the legal web she spun for herself. If there was ever a time to come through with charm, poise, and respect, it was now. Jasmine asked her mom to meet Matt. This was his moment to win her over. To show that despite the scandal, he was someone worth trusting with her daughter's heart. Instead, he showed up sounding like a man explaining car repairs at a gas station. "Hi, I'm Matt. I love your daughter. I want to help her. I don't want to cause any harm." That's how he opened. Stiff, robotic, like he was reading from a customer service manual. Jasmine translated it to her mom, who doesn't speak English. But even without the words, you could feel it. The energy was off. Her mom wasn't impressed. She wasn't even interested. She was concerned, then came the question. The big one. Why did Matt agree to be part of an open marriage? A question anyone would expect. And what did Matt say? Because I'm single, in my 30s, and it sounded like something I could do on the side. Like a hobby. That's what he called it. Not a real relationship. Not something sacred. Not a messy attempt to rebuild a broken connection. A hobby, like wood carving. Or fantasy football. Jasmine's face dropped. You could see her soul leave her body for a second. Even she knew that was bad. So when she translated, she cleaned it up, softened the blow, added sparkle where there was none. Because the truth, Matt's truth, wasn't safe for parental ears, and the irony? Jasmine had already done enough lying to last the entire season. If your new man can't even fake maturity for 5 minutes, what's he going to do when real pressure hits? This wasn't just awkward. It was a flashing red flag. Jasmine's mom was asking real questions about stability, responsibility, plans. And Matt, he had nothing. No idea what fatherhood looks like. No plan for Jasmine's delivery. No sense of the emotional gravity he just walked into. He even said, "I don't know. I've never had kids. How am I supposed to know this stuff?" And that line, while brutally honest, felt like the wrong answer in front of a mother watching her daughter cry. And Jasmine, now stuck translating one weak answer after another, started to realize she might have rushed into something again. This wasn't about passion anymore. This was about trust, about presence, about showing up for the mess and not flinching. Matt looked overwhelmed, checked out, maybe even annoyed. And Jasmine, she looked tired. Tired of defending a man who wasn't defending her. Her mom saw it too. No screaming, just that look. That quiet, knowing sadness only a mother can carry when she watches her child make another mistake. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She didn't lash out. But somehow Jasmine's mother said everything with her silence. As Jasmine explained, carefully, shamefully, how she had asked Gino for an open marriage, how she fell for someone else, how she's now 7 months pregnant with Matt's child. Her mom just sat there, still, watching, listening, not interrupting. That silence hurt more than any scream ever could, because this wasn't the kind of silence that comes from confusion. It was the kind that comes from clarity, from the painful realization that your daughter is lost, that the lessons you taught her, the values you tried to pass down, they didn't stick. Jasmine said she regretted not telling her sooner, that she'd been avoiding video calls, that she knew better but still lied. She tried to take ownership, to soften it, but her voice shook, her hands twitched, and the tears, real, heavy, and raw, finally came. She wasn't crying because she got caught. She was crying because the one person she still wanted approval from was now looking at her like a stranger. And her mother? She stayed calm. Not because she wasn't devastated, but because she had to be strong. Strong for Jasmine. Strong for the granddaughter she's never met. Strong for the sons back in Panama who will one day ask what happened. Sometimes the quietest moments are the loudest lessons, and Jasmine was finally hearing hers. This wasn't a dramatic reality TV meltdown. It was something deeper, more real. Jasmine, for all her chaos and contradictions, had reached a point she couldn't charm her way out of. She had spent months running. From affection, from loneliness, from Gino, from herself. And now she'd run straight into a wall, her mother's gaze. She knew what it meant. She even said it herself. Her mother listens, observes, and then, without a word, lets you feel the full weight of her disappointment. This moment wasn't about Matt, or Gino, or even the pregnancy. It was about Jasmine finally seeing the wreckage she left behind while chasing something she thought would make her feel alive. She had tried to build something new without tearing down the old first, and the pieces didn't fit. Her mom could see that. And for the first time, so could Jasmine. They ended the call with "I love you." But it hung in the air like an unfinished sentence. Like they both knew the next time they spoke, everything would be different. And as Jasmine ended the call, she broke. Not in the way people cry for sympathy, but in that deep guttural way that says, "I hurt someone I never meant to hurt." The tears had barely dried before reality came knocking. And this time, it wasn't emotional. It was legal. Cold, paperwork, signatures, deadlines. Jasmine's story stopped being personal and started becoming procedural because here's the legal trap she walked right into. Gino is still her husband on paper. That means under Michigan law, when a child is born during a marriage, the husband is presumed to be the legal father, even if he's not the biological one. That's right. Gino, the man she hasn't touched in months, the man she left without fully leaving, is now legally tied to a child that isn't his. And the law doesn't care about awkward love triangles or dramatic breakups. It cares about paperwork. And Jasmine? She didn't file fast enough. This puts everyone in a bind. Gino didn't agree to be a father to Matt's baby, but the court could say otherwise. And if that happens, he's not just a name on a birth certificate. He's financially responsible. Period. Now Jasmine and Matt are scrambling. They met with a lawyer, not to get clarity, but to buy time. Because if Gino presses this, Jasmine may have no choice but to fight for a legal amendment. And that means court filings, DNA tests, and custody discussions. And here's the worst part. None of this chaos is about what's best for the baby. It's about cleaning up mistakes, messes, regret. When love falls apart, the law doesn't care who's hurting. It only cares who's liable. And that's what makes this next part even more brutal. Gino didn't just get hurt. He got vengeful. When he found out about the pregnancy, he didn't go quiet. He called immigration. He reported Jasmine for marriage fraud, a legal claim that, if taken seriously, could trigger deportation proceedings. And Jasmine, she knows it. She said it on camera. She's afraid of being sent back to Panama. Not just for her, but for the baby, too. This isn't just drama. It's risk. Legal, federal, life-changing risk. And suddenly, the fairy tale Jasmine tried to write with Matt feels more like a ticking clock. Because let's be honest, none of this would be happening if Jasmine had ended things cleanly. But instead of closing one door before opening another, she left both wide open. Now she's in limbo. Legally married to one man. Emotionally tied to another. Pregnant. Exposed. And Matt? Still fumbling. Still unsure. Still looking like a man who wandered into the wrong story and isn't sure how to leave. Gino might be angry, but the law is blind. And that's the part Jasmine underestimated. She said she was doing better now, that the worst was behind her, that this, her life with Matt, her new daughter, her shaved head and quiet smile, this was peace. But is it? Because for someone who keeps saying she's found the love of her life, Jasmine still looks like she's holding her breath, like she knows the next storm could hit any minute. And maybe that's because deep down she knows peace built on panic isn't peace at all. It's survival. There she was, posting photos of herself and Matt, both with shaved heads, smiling, united, presenting a united front in the middle of a mess. And yes, on the surface, it looked strong. Jasmine said she shaved her head due to alopecia, and Matt did the same in solidarity. The caption was poetic. She called him her peace, her forever, her home. But captions are easy. Real life isn't, because behind every filtered selfie is a truth that doesn't post well. Like the fact that Jasmine's divorce from Gino still hasn't officially played out on screen. Or the quiet detail that under US law, until that paperwork is finalized, Gino could still be on the hook as the child's legal father. The law hasn't changed. The risk hasn't gone away. But Jasmine, she's trying to act like it has. When someone rushes to paint a picture-perfect ending, it usually means the story isn't done yet. And the audience sees it. She's trying so hard to show she's moved on. That this was a love story that took a wrong turn, but now everything's in place. The truth is, Jasmine's still running. And maybe she always has been. Look at the timeline. She was with Gino for years. They had drama, sure. But there were moments she called him her soulmate. Then the love dried up. The intimacy stopped. She started pulling away. And instead of ending it, she opened the door for someone else to walk in. Matt. And he did. At first, he was quiet, mysterious, kind of a blank slate. He listened to her, paid attention, wasn't Gino. And that might have been enough, at least for a while. But then real life came in. Matt wasn't ready for fatherhood. That much was clear. His answers were clumsy. His presence felt absent. And his whole energy, even when talking to Jasmine's mom, was off. Like a man who knew he was in over his head but didn't have the tools or interest to climb out. Still, Jasmine clung to it, called it love, clung even tighter when things started to crumble, maybe because starting over again would be too much, maybe because she was already pregnant, or maybe because she needed something to be real, even if it wasn't quite right. And this is the part that stings, not just for Jasmine, but for anyone watching who's ever tried to build a life on hope alone. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't falling apart, it's realizing you've rebuilt on sand. Matt might love her, he might even mean well, but love isn't always enough. And when you look at how Jasmine's life changed so quickly, so drastically, it's hard not to ask, was this really growth? Or was it escape? Because here's what's hard to admit. Sometimes people leave one bad situation and dive headfirst into another just to avoid being alone. And from the outside, that might look like moving on. But inside, it's still chaos. That's what makes her Instagram caption so haunting. You loved me so gently, opened your heart to my boys. Like only a real father can. She's trying to convince us. Maybe trying to convince herself. But the boys? Are they in this picture? Is Matt stepping up every day? Or are these just words written at 3 a.m. to make the silence feel a little less loud? Because Matt hasn't shown us much. We've seen more hesitation than conviction, more awkward stumbles than strong declarations, more confusion than confidence. And that matters. Jasmine has always needed affirmation. She's said it many times. When Gino stopped giving her affection, it shattered her. She said she didn't feel seen, didn't feel alive. And instead of working through it, or walking away, she found someone else to fill the space. That's not a betrayal. That's a pattern. What looks like empowerment can sometimes be avoidance in disguise. And now she's in Florida, the place she always said felt more like home than Michigan. She's with a man who doesn't raise his voice, doesn't wear a fedora, and doesn't seem to argue as much. On paper, it sounds perfect, but life doesn't live on paper. And the unresolved threads in Jasmine's life are still hanging. Her relationship with Gino is legally unfinished. Her immigration status could still be questioned. Her future with Matt, despite the captions and filtered smiles, still feels shaky. And that's the part Jasmine might not be ready to face. Because once the baby arrives, everything changes. The silence disappears. The hard questions show up. Who's waking up at night? Who's paying the bills? Who's filling out school forms? Love has to become action. Promises become plans. So far, we haven't seen that from Matt. And we haven't seen Jasmine slow down long enough to process what she's really doing. She's been moving fast since the beginning. From one man to another. From one state to another. From one identity to the next. But at some point, you have to stop and look in the mirror. And not the curated kind you post on Instagram. The real one. Is this who Jasmine wants to be? Is this the love she's been searching for? Or is she, once again, building a life on top of whatever she hasn't dealt with yet? Closure doesn't come from changing zip codes. It comes from changing yourself. That's why this final stretch matters more than anything else in her storyline. Because we're watching someone try to rewrite their future without resolving their past. And that always comes with consequences. For now, Jasmine's trying to show strength. And maybe she's finding it. Maybe shaving her head wasn't just about alopecia. Maybe it was about letting go of something heavier. A need to be seen, to be perfect, to be loved without conditions. Or maybe it was about starting over. Again, but the truth is, even new beginnings need solid foundations. And Jasmine hasn't built one yet. Not legally, not emotionally, not publicly. She's still editing the story as she goes. Matt might stick around. He might not. But until Jasmine can face the full weight of her choices and stop running from her own silence, she'll keep repeating the same heartbreak under different names. So, is this redemption? Or is it repetition? Right now, it's hard to tell. The smiles look real. The baby is beautiful. But the silence? It's still there, beneath the surface, waiting. And something tells me this story isn't finished yet. Because when the past is still knocking, no amount of new love can keep the door shut forever. We've watched Jasmine try to build something better, but whether she's ready to do it honestly, that's the real cliffhanger. And Gino? He might be quiet now. But in my next video, we're breaking down exactly what he's planning and why he might still have the power to flip Jasmine's new life upside down.